Welcome back to another episode of the Experts in Fire podcast. I'm your host, Mike Vennard, and with me today is Randy Mowry. This week's episode is vented versus vent-free gas logs. Let's get into it. Hey, Randy, how you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you today, sir?
You know what? It was icy and cold last night, down into the 20s.
Holy smokes. It's here, buddy. It's here. I know when I looked out the window there, it was all frost across the lawn.
Fun stuff. But speaking of cold, Randy, this is the time of year where gas logs, and I think this episode will drop, sometime in December, and it's getting cold, right? And so right now, I know you guys take a ton of phone calls, and you're talking with people about gas log sets. And we've done a few episodes on gas log sets and, replacing wood burning with gas log sets and, the benefits to that. And what we really wanted to do was focus in on what truly is the difference between a vented gas log set and a ventless gas log set. Seems to be the question we get. And, we get a lot of, hey, can I do this or do that and put a ventless log set here? So let's just grab a hold of some of those questions that we get and talk about. Number one, as a Master Heart professional yourself, when somebody asks that question, vented or vent-free, what's the difference? What's the first thing that pops into your head?
The main difference is someone looking for their log set to provide heat or just for aesthetics. They've been burning wood for years and they're just tired of cutting, storing, hauling, and putting wood in there. They want to transition to gas, but they want a nice flame.
Gotcha. So when you say, do you want heat, which one plays or falls into that category?
So ventless gas logs are designed as an efficiency appliance, like a heating appliance, to provide heat into the living space. Your vented log, we want folks to keep in mind, is going to operate just like a wood-burning fireplace, meaning you're going to open up that damper every time you use that log set fully. So really all that heat's going out of the chimney. In vented logs, they don't have or show an efficiency level because it's classified as a decorative appliance.
Wow. I you know what? I think that is a surprise to a lot of people when you talk to them about gas log sets and you call a vented log set a decorative appliance.
The fact that damper is open fully is where, almost all that heat is going. There are some in the vented category, what they call radiant units, that are out there from some manufacturers that are going to try their best to radiate some of the heat into the living space. Still not a heating appliance like a ventless log set, but it does push a little bit more heat in there, but still it is a vented log set. That damper is going to be in the open position at all times. And we want to really stress that because that could be really harmful for somebody.
I'll just use an example real fast. We rented a cabin up in the Keweenaw Peninsula. At that cabin, there were gas log sets, and they were vented gas log sets. And the kids absolutely loved them because you could flip the switch, they'd turn on, and you could sit by the fire. And I, as we're talking about this, I remember them going, oh, this is cool. And I'm like, that's a good word to use. It's cool because in the middle of a winter of the Keweenaw Peninsula and the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, it's going to be cool in that cabin.
It is.
If you're using that log set.
For sure. Exactly.
So, that's one of the benefits. So we've talked about vented logs being a decorative appliance and ventless logs being used for heat. I mean, that is what they're designed for. Let's just go into talking about best uses for them, and then we'll talk about some of the pluses and minuses as well. I think we've touched on, for vented logs, best use would be aesthetics, wouldn't you say?
It would be correct, yeah. So when it comes to vented logs, the great thing about vented logs is the fireplaces, it doesn't really matter if it's 3 feet wide or if it's 6 feet wide. You're going to be able to find a vented log set to put in there to really enhance the aesthetics of it if you're transitioning from wood to gas. And just they make those big logs. And, you're going to get vented logs because they are vented. You're going to be using that chimney. And they're going to be anywhere from, 50,000 BTUs, in excess of 150,000 BTUs, depending on the size of the logs. And it's going to give you these really nice big roaring flames through your logs. And that's what it's designed to do on these big fireplaces. And your traditional standard, like my parents', is only about 36 inches wide, and it puts off a nice flame.
Yeah, and when you say aesthetics, I think especially folks who are going from wood burning to a gas log set, they still want that wood burning look, right? Taller flames.
Absolutely, and that's what a lot of them say. You and I both lived in Texas, and a lot of places down there in that area, they don't necessarily want any heat whatsoever. And we'll get those calls when we ask the question of, what are you looking for? Are you looking to heat up the living room, or do you just want this for looks? And, well, we want it just for looks. We're just done burning wood. Well, then we're driving into that vented. We're going to get them, we'll provide the largest set we can based on their dimensions of their fireplace, so they can have as big a flame and presence in the fireplace as possible, so that it looks like some, similar to wood. Obviously, we all know that it's not, but, we'll do our best to provide what we can for them.
Right. And I tell you what, in the gas log industry, we've got some really good partners, manufacturers who are constantly working on new looks, new designs, and it's exciting when you see innovation inside of an industry that, I mean, let's be honest, you flip a switch and flames come on a burner and there are logs that just sit there, right? But there are some, within the next few years, these guys are knocking on the door of doing some really cool stuff. So I get excited about that. But you're right, it's all wrapped around presentation, right? Aesthetics, how's this going to look? I want it to look as real as possible. Presentation of the logs themselves between, just an oak log set versus a charred oak log set. We've seen the glowing embers that you can rub everywhere that give it that. We're always talking about how to get the best look. But the truth is, most of the time, folks are looking for what's going to give me the tallest flame, right? And then we have to talk them down sometimes. We're like, guy, your fireplace isn't even tall enough for this, right?
Right, yeah, because there's some sizable logs out there. That's funny. But no, I mean, vented sets they're fantastic. They obviously have been around the longest in the industry, and they do a great job with those. And if somebody still wants a vented set and they want to try to get a little bit of that heat, reflected off of it, that's where those radiant sets that some of our partners offer, that's where those are going to come into play. So there are some vented options. I always like to stress the fact that I don't want folks to think that these things are going to heat their space, because it's the big difference.
You have fire-related questions, and we have answers. You can email us your questions at podcast@woodlanddirect.com or give us a call at 586-221-3638. We would love to be able to answer them right here on the Experts in Fire podcast.
Real fast, we're gonna put some cautions on this right away, because we will get our customers who go, well, I mean, can't I just close the damper and treat them like a ventless set? And the answer to that is absolutely not. No, never, can't do. It's dangerous. Very dangerous.
Very dangerous. Anytime you have a gas appliance, especially like in your living room like that, no matter what it is, you need to have a carbon monoxide detector somewhere nearby. And, I have them glittered all through my house, and I'm sure that you do as well. Whether it's vented or ventless, you need that carbon monoxide detector in the space someplace. But with a vented set, you never, ever. And actually, Mike, with a vented set, they're going to ship with what they call a damper clamp. And this clamp is going to be mounted and screwed to the damper. And the whole purpose for this clamp is to hold that damper in an open position ever so slightly. Depending on how that gets installed, that position could be a half-inch gap. It could be a 1-inch gap, depending on how they mount that clamp. But it's just shaped like a U, has a nut that runs through it or a bolt that runs through it that the installers are going to attach to that damper so that that damper can never be fully closed. So I also let folks know that as well, that that damper is going to be always in some type of open position, which in some cases folks may not want the vented set because if they don't have any kind of, we'll say glass door or something on the front to try to slow the loss of heating or air conditioning when those are not being used, there's just always something to consider as well.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. The concept of having a damper on a wood-burning fireplace is so that when it's not in use, you can close it. And you're basically closing a hole in the house, right?
Correct.
And it's not a very good, just so you guys know, it's not a great close hole. Dampers do a good job, don't get me wrong, but it's just a hole in your house. That's what it is. And then now you do have to put that, and I'm glad you brought that up, Randy. You have to put that in place for safety purposes. Safety, safety, safety. Please keep you and your family safe anytime you're thinking about doing these things. And I got to tell you, if you're a DIYer out there listening, you guys do some cool stuff. You do. But please, please educate yourself before you do things. Call us. We can definitely help. And if you are working with gas appliances, call a gas professional. They're going to know. They're going to know. You know, I watch YouTube all the time. I'm watching people build stuff, construct stuff. It's neat. And there are some times when people start talking about gas and then that phrase of, you know what? I just decided to do it myself. I'm like, no, turn that video off, right? There are reasons why our gas professionals out there have gone to school, they've done the work, they've done their apprenticeships so that they know simply, quickly, easily, nope, can't do that, can do this, here you go, it's done. Yes, it's going to cost you a little cash, and they deserve it because they are going to keep your family safe. So that's one point right there. Let's just stay safe. So, okay, we know that the vented side is going to be about looks, big flames, but it's decorative. On the ventless side, we can close that damper down now and use the heat coming off of that. What are some of the benefits to a ventless log set, Randy?
Good point there as far as making sure that so the damper's closed. First question when somebody's asking for ventless gas logs is always the fireplace type. We want to check that first before I typically get into like some of the benefits for people of why they're calling for a ventless log set. Just because we have masonry, brick and mortar, clay line chimney fireplaces, Mike, and then you have your prefabricated. So we want to make sure that the fireplace is the correct application. But as far as the benefits go, it's going to be heat. That's what they're designed to do. It's a heating appliance. They're 99.9% efficient in heating. And that's what they're designed to do. They are designed to heat a space. So we want to make sure that the space is going to be large enough for that particular log set as well.
A complete flip when it comes to ventless. When you have a vent-free appliance in place, you're sitting next to the heater. I mean, it's going to get warm.
That's exactly what you're doing. It's exactly what you're doing. You're just sitting on top of that register.
That's exactly what I think of when I was a kid, man. Get right on that register and warm up. Don't get on a vent-free log set. However, there are, when it comes to vent-free, it has a history of debate in terms of its safety. It has a history of discussion. Some states say all you can use is vent-free. Some states say no vent-free. It's weird, I gotta be honest. It just really depends on what side of the discussion or debate you sit on. And I think that everyone can agree the reason there's a discussion and debate is safety.
I won't speculate on the states and their reasoning, but I will say, so when it comes to like a ventless log set, because it's a heating appliance, it's 99.9% efficient. So what we'll call our byproduct is for approximately every 100,000 BTUs of usage. So let's just use ventless log sets max out at 40,000 BTUs. Okay, so let's just say it's a 30-inch log set. The 40,000 is the largest that the burners will provide. And it doesn't matter if it's a 30-inch burner We have a manufacturer that makes a 36-inch burner. 40,000 BTUs is all it's going to provide. Okay.
So give perspective real fast for our listeners. Perspective to that is 40,000 is the max you're going to get, which means the wider the burner goes, the smaller the flame's going to be. And they are working hard at different technology, smaller holes, different things to help present that flame taller, that presentation. But you are limited in the amount of BTUs you can use.
Correct. In a 40,000 BTU example, you're going to be about 2.5 hours at 100,000 BTUs. So we're going to put about a gallon of moisture or water vapor into our houses, the nitrous dioxide. So in Michigan, that's good. We're putting extra humidity into our space because our furnaces are running all winter long. We're getting dry in the house. So running a ventless gas log set like on my property, I could probably operate it for 6-7 hours, or who knows, because it just depends on somebody's house and their house envelope, how tight it is, how dry it's going to be, things like that. And so previously, I feel that what was happening is people were just leaving them on and using them as maybe possibly like secondary, primary heat, and it was sweating windows and creating mold issues and things like that. These kind of things all come down to owner responsibility too, and understanding what they're purchasing. And I feel that back in the day that these kind of things weren't explained to people. It was like, oh, hey, here's a ventless heating appliance. So they got a bad safety rap, and they are completely safe. They have what's called built-in oxygen depletion systems. If it's a newer construction and it's a tight house, it's gonna, as those oxygen levels go down in the space, because we all need oxygen for the flame. We know that. It will shut itself down. It's a built-in safety device that unit cannot just be left on for any kind of extended period of time in a tight envelope of a property. Now, that's why we do some calculations for a particular log set, ventless log sets, if they're going into a smaller space, that we can size it correctly for the BTUs. But all in all, these units are safe. There are just some things, obviously, that we cover with folks that they may be concerned with, Mike.
I'm a huge fan of my gas stove. Yeah, I think I've talked about my gas stove in 3 or 4 different episodes of this podcast, right? I just love cooking with gas versus an electric stove. So a lot of times I'll use the example of turn your gas stove on, limited in the number of BTUs a gas stove can put out. Typically, you do have venting for the moisture and the things of that nature. You're supposed to. I've got a cool down draft hood. Never knew those existed until we went into this kitchen project we did. And when you stop and think about it, you turn your gas stove on. Now shove it into a hole in a wall. What's going to happen, right? There become safety concerns with how hot that box is going to get. Is this going into a masonry fireplace? Okay. Randy, I feel like we could have an entire conversation just on how to prepare your masonry firebox and chimney for a vent-free system. But, I try to use that word picture for folks so they can understand, oh, okay, it's like my gas stove. But we will get calls when people get a vent-free log set, and sometimes we'll sell just the log set, and sometimes we will sell the entire appliance, right? What are some of the most common complaints, let's say, that you would get on a phone call, Randy?
The most common one is the odor, that people maybe had a older log set, and is this log set going to smell? When a ventless log set is placed in the fireplace, all right, we already know that there is no chimney, so we're burning the fire 99.9% efficient. However, anything that is inside the house, pet hair, dander, dust, scented candles, fumes from wet paint, hair, carpet fibers, all of these things are being just naturally drawn into the firebox because it's open. We can't have any kind of like solid glass panel on the front of the fireplace or anything of this nature. All these things are being drawn to the fireplace, Mike. So think of your cooking, your stove analogy. You're cooking, you move the pan, and your flame is still on, and you burn the hair on your arm, and it smells. Okay? The moment somebody turns on the ventless log set, you're burning all of these things that we're drawing into that fireplace. And it's just a natural occurrence. Somebody could probably go in there and try to vacuum and clean it continuously, but you're still, just the dust fibers and carpet fibers and the pet hair, your natural hair, just our skin that falls off naturally through our processes. These things are being burned. Those are where the odors are coming from. With Ventless, would like to stress, Ventless log placement is extremely important. There are instructions in the manual of very specific placement, and a lot of the logs, the burners themselves may even have vertical pins that stick up that log A goes here, log B goes here. And they do that for a reason, so that we don't have what's called flame impingement, where the flame is actually touching these logs. So there's that possibility too, that I will ask them, it's always the possibility that maybe when you had maintenance on your logs, maybe the logs weren't placed correctly back in place, things like that. But more times than not, it's all these elements that we just talked about. That odor will have a tendency to go away once all that stuff is burned off, but it could be pretty heavy in the beginning, especially if a house is full of carpet or if a family has 2 or 3 dogs. In most cases, Mike, that's where that odor is coming from.
Right. I'd love to draw the picture for folks as well, that you said you can try and vacuum it out, clean it, and you absolutely can. What you're going to get is you're going to get flames that are not touching logs, like on a vented log set. And that's one of the things we'll get. People are like, it doesn't seem to be running right. It smells. Did you follow the directions in putting your logs exactly where they go? Well, no, I just kind of stacked them up. Yeah, you can't do that with a ventless log set, right? And it's really, again, it's just about education and why these things are set up the way they're set up. But the way anything that is burning, fire in general, right? And this is what we love, is fire, is you have to have oxygen. You have gas, you have an ignition point, but you have to have oxygen. So when you think of the face of that fireplace, the heat is coming up and rolling into the room. And the oxygen that flame needs to burn is coming from below, rolling into the fire. So you just kind of got this circular motion. In anything you walk through on the carpet, and those fibers and the dust and the whatever flies up, it's going to get drawn into that fire and burned and pushed back out. Now, I can say I've got friends who have ventless fireplaces and they love them. So I'm not trying to push people away from them. However, I'm a guy who likes to know going in, right? I like to know, should I expect this? Should I not? So, and for our pros who are listening out there, this is a great way to stay away from those follow-up calls where people are going, come and get these things out of here, right?
Yeah, because we sell hundreds and hundreds of ventless gas logs every year in every state that they're applicable, and people love them, especially like in the eastern coastline where they're constantly losing power and they're having to use those log sets to keep warm for hours on hours when they have no power in the middle of the winter. So people love them. They are safe. I will touch on not applicable for bedrooms. There are some that have to be like 10,000 BTUs or less for a bedroom. There's very few options there. There are available, but they are extremely safe.
So many debates and discussions go on in the hallways of what Randy and I live every day. And I appreciate the rule with the bedrooms just because you're going to sleep and I want you to wake up. That's all. If there's a slight chance, I wouldn't bring my stove into my bedroom and light it up.
Yeah.
Safety, I agree, Randy. The ODS system has shown that it does its job. When it comes to safety, for the conversations we have with people, it's really about that odor that's coming off. Is that safe? Well, are you sensitive to odors? So there are things to know. Again, I'm just going to recap real fast. Vented log sets, decorative. Big flame, big logs, kind of move the logs around how you want them, make it look really cool. But that heat is going up and out.
some way, somehow, because it has to be vented. You cannot shut the vent, or you cannot shut the damper. That is dangerous. When it comes to ventless gas logs, it is rated as a heating appliance. There is no damper in a ventless box, or you can close your damper and really put yourself into a position where you can use that gas that you're burning as heat to come inside the house. Noting that you're going to be bringing moisture into the home, and you run the risk of odors when you turn that thing on. I will say this too when it comes to that. The more often you use a ventless gas log set, the less odor there seems to be. Now, I'm speaking on speculation there. There could be folks out there listening going, I call baloney. Call baloney on me. I'm good with that. Give us a shout. We'd love to talk about it. But that's been my experience, has been the more you use it, the less odor comes off of that. So, Randy, anything else you want to add to this episode?
No, I don't think so. I think we've done a fair job of covering the important keys for folks and making some decisions on, what directions they want to go with the gas log. And then when they do call us, we're going to go over a few other things as far as their fireplace goes and what type of fireplace they have to make sure that they can use what they want to use and get them the right product.
Awesome. Well, as always, Randy, I really appreciate you being here and talking with us, man. It's always fun. Friday mornings.
Always. Friday mornings are great. Friday mornings are great when we get a chance to do this, and our cool weather's rolling in, and I am totally good with that.
I agree. Outside of needing to clean out the garage, I'm looking forward to some cold here and really enjoying the holiday season. So, Randy, appreciate you, brother. Thanks for joining us. And for all of you out there listening, again, if you ever have a question or a comment, give us a shout. We'd love to talk. We're open. We'll be honest. If you have something else you want to add to it, we'd love to hear from you. So please give us a shout. Get a hold of us in any one of the different ways you can. And until next time, stay safe out there. I don't know. I got nothing, Justin. I got nothing.